At a certain large school, it was found that the proportion of students not wearing correct uniform was 0.15. After letters were sent to the parents, the school wishes to test whether the proportion not wearing correct uniform has been reduced. Part A, it is suggested that a random sample of the students in grade 12 should be used for the test. Give a reason why this would not be an appropriate sample. The grade 12 students are the students in one grade. There are more than one grade in a school. If a random sample of students in grade 12 is used, then the sample is not representative of all the students in the school. So for this case here, we can say that the sample is not representative. A suitable sample of 50 students. Now we have a sample of 50 students, and the number not wearing correct uniform is noted. This figure is used to carry out a test at the 5% significance level. Part B, state a suitable null and alternative hypothesis. For part B here, the null hypothesis that we wish to test is that the proportion is 0.15 against the alternative that the proportion not wearing correct uniform has been reduced. So the alternative hypothesis states that the proportion must be less than 0.15. Part C, use a binomial distribution to find the probability of a type 1 error. You must justify your answer fully. The probability of a type 1 error. Type 1 error occurs when we reject the null hypothesis, given that the null hypothesis is true. So when the null hypothesis is true, the proportion not wearing correct uniform is 0.15. And we reject at the 5% significance level, alpha is 0.05. So what we want to do now is to find the probability of rejecting the null hypothesis. What is the probability of rejecting the null hypothesis when the proportion is 0.15? We reject at the 5% significance level. Sample size is equals to 50. So let's say 50 times 0.05, that is 2.5. When the number of students not wearing correct uniform is around 2.5, we would reject the null hypothesis. So let's try x equals 3 then. We need to find the probability of rejecting the null hypothesis. So we need to find the left tail area. And suppose the number not wearing correct uniform, this is given by x here. X represents the number of students not wearing correct uniform. Then we know that X follows a binomial distribution. The sample size is 50. And since we are finding type 1 error, the null hypothesis is true when the probability of success is 0.15. We need to find the probability that X is less than or equals to 3. Yeah, because n times 0.05 is 2.5. So we look at 3 first. You can start with a 2, but yeah, 3 works as well. That is the probability X equals 0 plus probability X equals 1 plus probability X equals 2 plus probability x equals 3. We want to find a probability value that is as close as possible to 0.05, not exceeding 0.05. We use the binomial PDF to find these probabilities. So you have 50C0, 0.15 to the 0. 1 minus 0.15 is 0.85. That is probability x equals 0. Probability x equals 1. We have 0.15 to the 1, 0.85 to the 49. Then we have 50C2, 0.15 to the 2, 0.85 to the 48. And over here, we have 0.15 to the 3 and 0.85 to the 47. And we see that this has a value of 0.04605. And this is less than 0.05. Now what we want is to find a probability value as close as possible to 0.05, but still less than 0.05. This is close, but is it close enough? What we want to do is we want to test, find the next one, probability x less than or equals to 4, to see whether this is closer to 0.05 without exceeding it. That is 0.04605 plus probability x equals 4. That is 50C4, 0.15 to the 4, 85 to the 46. This has a value of 0.112, which clearly is greater than 0.05. Then from here, we say that the probability of type 1 error is 0.0461 to 3 significant figures. We use this since this is less than 0.05, and this will give us the probability of rejecting the null hypothesis. Part D, in fact, 4 students out of 50. So when the sample was collected, we noticed that 4 out of 50 are not wearing correct uniform. State the conclusion of the test explaining your answer. So for this case here, from C, you can see the probability x less than or equals to 3 is 0.04605. That is the probability of rejecting the null hypothesis. So the number of students not wearing correct uniform must be 3 or less to reject the null hypothesis. We see that 4 out of 50 are not wearing correct uniform. Probability x less than or equals 4 is 0.112. This is greater than alpha, which is 0.05. Then we do not reject the null hypothesis. When we do not reject the null hypothesis, we must state a conclusion. The conclusion is that there is not enough evidence to conclude that the proportion not wearing the correct uniform has decreased. Part D, state with a reason which of the errors may have been made. From part C, we do not reject the null hypothesis. H0 is not rejected. And type 2 error is the error committed when the null hypothesis is not rejected, even though it is false. So for this case, since the null hypothesis is not rejected from part C, we may have committed a type 2 error.